Hello everyone, this is Menz here. I'm going to be breaking down the E50 M's armor in this video. Now this goes hand in hand with a full weak spot guide over on my website, walkuber.com. There's a link in the video description and also at the end of the video to that specific article. Anyway, breaking down the E50 M's armor. The main thing to know coming from the Tier 9 E50 is things are kind of the same. However, with the E50M, you're going to get set on fire less because the transmission and basically stuff that makes you catch on fire is now towards the back of the tank for the most part, and you're not going to get set on fire through the front as much anymore. Now, the main difference between the E50M and the E50 comes with the lower glacis here. E50 had 100 millimeters, E50M has 120 millimeters, so that brings that up to 209 millimeters effective armor. So that change basically allows the E50 to bounce at least some lower tier shots from like tier 8s, some tier 9s if they get low rolls, even tier 10s if they get very low rolls on their penetration. And as you get closer to the E50M, if you're shooting down at the lower plate, you have a higher chance to bounce off of it because of that extra 20 millimeters. It makes a pretty big difference, but it's still considered a weak spot because most tier 8s through 10s can penetrate it fairly reliably, but there is that higher chance to bounce off of that lower plate, especially closer up. But moving up, you still have, coming from the E50, both this little lower glacis lip and also the upper glacis are the same, both very tough and hard to penetrate outside of, say, like tier 10 TDs and stuff getting that insane penetration, or, you know, premium rounds, of course. Now, the E50M, unfortunately, it has the turret front problems that kind of transfer over from the E50. The turret front here is still considered a pretty big, glaring weak spot. It actually becomes the go-to weak spot. You know, it's 197 millimeters effective, whereas on the E50, the lower glacis is weaker than the turret front. Turret front on the E50M is the weakest large area on the front of the tank. You still have a pretty strong mantlet. There is a small little weak spot above the mantlet, but it's still stronger than the turret front here. That's 234 millimeters effective, so still strong. And the sides of the E50M's turret, much like the E50, they're not impenetrable. They do have these small little viewfinder holes here that are very weak, but a little bit of angling left or right of the turret, and it makes whatever side of the turret front facing you very easy to actually penetrate. So say the E50 turns a little bit like this, pretty much just try to aim in this general area, and if you're tier 9 tier 10 tank, you're going to be able to penetrate it pretty easily. So getting back to I got it kind of lined up there. The cupola, much like the E50, pretty much identical. It's very easy to penetrate if you hit it more towards the bottom, basically bottom center mass of the cupola. You're going to be able to penetrate it for tier 10, tier 9, and even tier 8 for the most part. It's mainly just avoiding the sides of the cupola, and the very top parts are a little bit stronger than the bottom. So E50M, improves on the E50's armor frontally, especially basically removing, the flammable parts of the tank, mostly from the front of the tank and putting it in the rear. So that does help that out. Now, let's just switch over to the side view here. Much like the E50, the entire side of the E50M is easy to penetrate. You're not really going to bounce any shots off of this outside of possibly a couple little cupola shots that miss and hit the edge. Maybe this thicker part of the front turret, but it's pretty darn weak. Definitely don't get shot on the side and even the rear here of the E50M. The rear, the only tough parts are the angled parts of the rear turret and the cupola. Now, one last thing, coming from the differences between the E50 and the E50M, one thing, it doesn't affect the armor too much, directly, but looking at the E50M's turret here, when you compare that turret placement, look how forward it is on the front compared to the E50s, if you can see that. It basically, the E50s is a little bit set back here. Let me see if I can get this back really quick. E50 M moves just a hair more forward towards the front hull, so it helps the gun depression over the front a little bit more so than, you know, the E50. It's situated a little bit further in the back because they do have the same gun depression. That's because they moved basically a couple of the internal modules to the back on the E50 M. So what that does help with is it does help you hide that lower plate just a hair bit better. It still doesn't help with your turret front being weak. However, it does help hiding your lower plate just a pinch better on hills and stuff like that. But anyway, hopefully you liked this video here and it helped you out a little bit. Feel free to check out the weak spot guides on my website, walkguru.com. They go into a little bit more in depth into each individual area. You know, it should have popped up here already if it is. And there's a link, you know, to this specific E50M and also in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this helped you out. Have a good day.